The true horror of the Galactic Empire is not always found in the screech of a TIE fighter or the red blade of a lightsaber. Often it is found in the soft, ambient lighting of a Coruscant dining room where genocide is dismissed as bad conversation and fascism is welcomed because it is fun. In this scene we witness the most intimate tragedy of Mon Mothma's life. She spends her days fighting the Empire in the Senate, only to come home and find it sitting at the head of her own table. The scene opens in a space that feels less like a home and more like a mausoleum. The visuals are striking, stark geometric whites, cold marble, and crystal chandeliers that hang like frozen tears. It's a gilded cage, beautiful and lifeless. The long dining table physically separates Mon and her husband Perrin Fertha, turning a domestic conversation into a negotiation across a demilitarized zone. Or even a demaritalized zone. But it's the costumes that tell the deeper story. Mon stands rigid in high-necked, structured clothing that resembles armor held together by sheer will. Perrin, conversely, lounges in loose, flowing leisurewear. He is unarmored because he has no need for protection. He is the demographic the Empire was built to comfort. Here's a question. You may remember when we first saw Luthen and his retractable cane, we had a moment where he looked like a Jedi? Anyone also think Jedi when they see Perrin? The hair, the robes? Now I know he's probably just wearing high-end posh boy pajamas and dressing gown, but maybe Perrin's wardrobe suggests a dark fashion trend among the Coruscanti elite, the co-opting of Jedi austerity into a symbol of ultimate luxury and safety. Conquering cultures do this all the time. I'm imagining the first layer of this trend is performative austerity, a phenomenon often seen in the ultra-wealthy of any era, just as billionaires in our world may wear plain t-shirts to signal a detachment from material status. Perrin co-opts the Jedi aesthetic of poverty and renders it in expensive silks. The Jedi wore rough-spun tunics because they owned nothing. Perrin wears designer approximations because he owns everything. He thinks he appears zen and detached, when in reality he's obsessed with material comfort. Deeper than mere vanity, this fashion choice also acts as a trophy of the victor. Empires historically consume the cultures they destroy, turning the sacred symbols of the conquered into the meaningless accessories of the conqueror. Kashmiri shawls were items of great luxury requiring hundreds of skilled hours' work, and they were often adorned with paisley, a pattern from India with great spiritual and historical significance. In the 1800s, we started churning out mass-produced Kashmiri shawls as fast fashion items from places like Paisley in Scotland. That's not a coincidence, that's why it's called that. I don't know the Indian name for it, which is a shame. I won't look it up right now because that kind of defeats my point. And Paisley itself? I have a car air freshener with that pattern on. 14 years after Order 66, the Jedi are not just gone, they have been culturally metabolized. Turning the holy vestments of the Jedi Order into leisurewear is the ultimate flex of the victor. We destroyed you, and now we wear your identity as pajamas. The appropriation also feeds into Perrin's delusions of grandeur, acting as warrior sage cosplay. Perrin speaks fondly of his regimental days. He likes old weapons of war, yet his demeanor suggests a man who treated military service as a social club. I have no doubt his service was more Prince Andrew and less Prince Harry. Or like those Korean generals who have so many medals they go down their legs when they haven't been a war during their lifetimes. The Jedi were the galaxy's preeminent warrior monks, generals who led from the front. By adopting their silhouette, Perrin allows himself to feel the borrowed valor of the warrior monk archetype without ever having to lift a lightsaber or sleep in a trench. It's a way to feel martial and deep while remaining safe and shallow. Perrin's outfit might be a moral crime as much as a fashion crime. It takes the sacred vow of a genocide's victims and turns it into a fashion statement for the galaxy's most indulgent gluttons. Or, maybe it's just actually loungewear. Perrin is a terrifyingly realistic antagonist because he's so banal, so air quotes chill. When he mentions his regimental mate, the governor of Hannah, he isn't thinking of the occupation or the suffering of the locals, he is thinking of an old school friend to drink wine with. This disconnect drives the scene's central conflict, the dinner party guest list. Perrin has invited the architects of tyranny, Sly Moore and Ars Dangor, into their sanctuary. I looked them up. They're known characters. Don't think I'd want them at a party either, having a hard job imagining Sly being a laugh in particular. When Mon recoils, noting that these people spend every day trying to destroy our work, Perrin's defense is chilling in its simplicity. These people are fun. With that single line, the mask of civility falls away. To Perrin, politics is a game. He has the luxury of separating a person's policies from their personality because he's not affected. He can laugh with a man who cut off the Gorman shipping lanes, nice early mention of a Season 2 arc there, because the starvation of thousands is an abstract concept to him, occurring far away from his climate-controlled existence. When Mon attempts to pierce this bubble, suggesting they invite the starving Gormans to see how amused the guests would be, Perrin does not engage with the moral weight of her words. Instead, he pathologizes her conscience. "Perhaps you should have a rest," he says, dismissing her moral outrage as hysteria, a symptom of an overworked woman who just needs to calm down. He's gaslighting her. She's not making a good point, you see. She's just tired. "Oh, I don't like him. We haven't had someone to hate on since Tim died, and I was all conflicted about him anyway, so welcome to Perrin." The scene culminates in his final petulant plea. Must everything be boring and sad? For the Gormans, the Empire is a tragedy. For Mon Mothma, it is a mortal threat. But for Perrin, any resistance or pushback is merely a buzzkill. The scene closes with a moment of crushing domestic realism. Perrin mentions the rumor of a present. When she replies, "It's going back," she isn't joking, but she's not telling the truth either. It's a hollow threat born of exhaustion. They both know the gift isn't going anywhere. She does ultimately return it, but she doesn't get a refund. She exchanges it, which means it's got nothing to do with this argument. Her words are less a decision and more a weary release of frustration, a verbal slap on the wrist that Perrin barely feels. It captures the paralytic inertia of their marriage. Mon is fighting a real war with real stakes while trapped in a house of white marble with a man who thinks tyranny is entertaining, realizing that the most dangerous distance she has to cross isn't the galaxy, but the length of her own dinner table. Kalga, by the way, is the original Kashmiri name of Paisley.